Hello guys. Let me know as usual if there's anything wrong with the audio. Anyway, hey guys, starting right on time today. I'm gonna start on this screen, the art screen, instead of the just chatting screen, so we can get right into it. Hi to everyone in chat who is saying hello back to me. And it's really nice to see familiar names from people who watched my previous streams. So how are you guys doing? It's been a while since you've been in one of my streams. Yeah, I have not been a very good streamer for the past few months. So for this stream, I'm going to be sketching while answering any art questions. And I would also like to thank Patreon for sponsoring this stream. You could check out my Patreon in the links in the description below, as always. And I'm basically gonna just try to keep the stream super focused on the art. If we have any discussions, I'm gonna try to keep it art focused instead of derailing about microwaves and stuff like that. It's been forever since I went out to get milk, Cecile. Well, you know, at least I came back, unlike your dad. Audio's awesome? Okay, great. So, I was gonna say something else. Alright, so, about the art advice. Disclaimer, I'm not a classically trained professional artist or anything like that. I learned mostly on my own. So there will be some things I'm not great at. I'll probably just try to avoid answering questions, I don't know. But either way, take my advice with a grain of salt, because some of it will definitely be just personalized to my taste, since art is so subjective. No madness. Let's try to keep the madness level down. Gonna be a chill art stream, and even though I will be sketching in the background, it's okay to derail me to other types of art advice. If I have to draw something on the screen, that's okay. The sketching is more for when I have nothing else to do. I mean, I don't really know how active you guys are gonna be with asking questions or anything like that, but we'll see. Thank you, Zaid, for rejoining as a member. Also, there was one more thing I was gonna say. I actually have lots of things to say. I might just start drawing while I'm talking. Okay, so this drawing that I'm doing right now is a drawing of Cecile, and I kind of felt inspired in the past few months to draw more Cecile. I think a lot of the drawings I did of her in the past. Oops, let me fix something here. Okay. A lot of drawings I did of her in the past were like pinups or like not really anything deep. So I wanted to draw something that kind of gives her more of a backstory. Fifi, thank you for joining the membership, and Dwight, thank you for donating, and Dwight says welcome back. Welcome back to you too, to my stream. This will be archived, yes. My sketch is scaring you. It's hard for you to find your art style. I think a lot of beginners focus a lot on trying to like find an art style or something along those lines, like trying to make their art unique. Trying to, like, you know, be original. And I think art style comes more naturally than that. Like, you shouldn't have to try to find your art style. And I've definitely answered this question many times before, so for those of you who've watched a lot of my previous streams, you've probably heard my answer, but oh, if you hear background noise, I'm sorry, that's Moon, my cat. But basically, my response to finding your art style is that your art style should just be something that accumulates while you get more experience drawing, since it's just everything that you like put together into one style. I don't even know what Moon is doing. How do I usually sketch? I feel like that's a very loaded question. I think there's a lot of ways to interpret that question. How do I usually sketch? Well, it's good to start with guidelines, especially if it's a new thing that you're drawing. Try to analyze the shape of it first, break it down into simple geometric shapes, and then start there. Like, start with figuring out how this object looks from like all angles, which is another thing that you could do while you're drawing, looking at like a 3D model of the thing you're trying to draw. I know that Clip Studio has like 3D mod. Can you guys hear Moon? I feel like he's making a lot of noise. Clip Studio has a 3D model of like a person, I believe, and that could 100% help you with figuring out anatomy, because I think a lot of drawing has to do with trying to put something that is three-dimensional into like the 2D view. So you kind of have to understand. I guess you don't really have to, but if you do understand how the object you're trying to draw works in 3D, that will help you a lot in drawing it in 2D. I love the way I draw my line art. Thank you. I think I use like a different type of line art pen or sketch pen. I don't really consider my art line art since it's kind of messy. But I think I use a sort of different pen from other artists. The pen I use is like super sharp, like there's no blending at all. If I zoom in, you can see the pixels instead of having like a more airbrushy light sketch that looks like a pencil. And I don't know, this is just my preference. I know that's not everybody's preference. My sister is also an artist and she prefers a softer brush. So, yeah. I think you could probably start. I don't know. Honestly, since I don't use a softer brush, I don't know the appeal to it, but you could probably start a sketch with a soft brush and then line with my brush. Do I recommend nude life drawing? Yes, I do. So I've done this myself a couple of times to practice anatomy, which I still need practice on. I think anatomy is one of those things that you just constantly figure out stuff that you didn't know while you get more experience, because it's just such a complicated thing. The human body can twist and turn in really strange ways. So I was gonna say that from my experience of doing nude drawings, I did notice that if you're trying to draw anime art like I am, a lot of the anatomy of like real people doesn't completely translate over to like how anime people look. So there's gonna be like some disparities here and there if you learn anatomy completely from nude models. But the thing is, anime is stylized. It's not realism. Not really realism. Obviously, it's not like super cartoon like Adventure Time, but nude models will help you get down the fundamentals of anatomy, and then that's a great place to start. That is the place where you should start, and then you figure out how you want to stylize it after you get down the fundamentals. I always notice that artists with good fundamentals have like far more impressive looking art than artists who just, you know, well, personally to me. Technical difficulty. I don't know if that was very loud for you guys. My mic dropped to the floor. Sorry about that. I don't know why. This should lock in place. Okay, I'm sorry if it drops again. I'll try to figure it out if it drops again. It wasn't Moon this time. It was just my very wobbly setup. Okay, now I feel like I have to hold it with my hand, which is hard when I'm drawing. To complete my sentence that I was saying. What was I saying? Oh gosh, slipped my mind. Oh right, I was saying that I think art with like really good fundamentals always looks more impressive to me than art that's just like really detailed but with poor fundamentals. And I think so like simple art with good fundamentals look better to me than detailed art with poor fundamentals. And I noticed that a lot of beginner artists could make that mistake of getting too carried away with just trying to figure out details instead of, you know, boring stuff like learning anatomy. Let's see. Okay, so there was something else that I was going to say first. And I did not say yet, which is I am open to redlining you guys' artworks in the stream if you send it to me. I don't know the easiest way to send it to me, probably through Twitter DMs. And I honestly don't know how many of you guys are going to send me something, but I probably won't be able to do everyone, of course, as a disclaimer. Or if you ask, so don't just send me your artwork with nothing, like add a message, like the type of advice that you want from me. And I will look into it. There's gonna be some stuff where I'll probably be like, yeah, I don't really know how to help you there, so might not, you know, reply to just anyone that I get. But we'll see. Are we having an impromptu art class? Yeah, I guess so, sort of. I realized I never did anything like that before. I think once upon a time, I was planning to do like some sort of art critique stream, but that never happened. So I guess this is it. This is that art critique stream that would have happened back when I was streaming more frequently. Okay, I'm paying not a lot of attention to this drawing right now, but that's okay. I think everything I draw while I'm streaming, I just have to fix up when I'm not streaming. I think I need a lot of concentration while drawing, and when I'm streaming, half my attention is taken away. I'm sorry, something looks really bad. Okay. Oh, I did see someone ask the question of what do I consider fundamentals, and you can probably Google this and get a more complete list, but off the top of my head, I would say, let's see, perspective, color theory, anatomy, let me just Google this for you guys. You know what? Let's get a real answer. Art fundamentals. Composition? I just thought of another one. Okay. Let's see. I'm just Googling. Okay, let's see. Values, color. Okay, I'm looking at a list right now. Values, color theory, perspective and depth, shapes and form, proportion, composition. And that's what this one article says. The first one I clicked. I think I got like the majority of them off the top of my head. Pats myself on the back. Yeah, anyway. You could probably get some great descriptions of what those are if you Google it yourself. If you're confused about one or the other. I could probably give you a simple answer too if you ask. Okay. Alright, back to drawing. Popwell LOL says, for anatomy, I recommend Proco. I assume that's a website or a resource. I will trust you on that. How do I fit everything you need in the composition? Your artworks always fit in the canvas superbly. So I get what you're what your like struggle is from this question. And I do experience once in a while I'm drawing that I want to fit something and it just does not fit. Like sometimes I'm drawing, for example, okay, that dragon character that I was drawing previously in one of my earlier speed paints, I think the second to last speed paint I uploaded, I wanted to put like his tail in it. I wanted to put something dragon-y in it because his character design, it doesn't really have like too many dragon aspects on the upper half of it. Why don't I just pull it up? I think I can pull it up. So as I was saying, it would have been really cool if I could fit his tail into it, but I was trying to do a composition with just like the bust because he was standing behind the table. So in the end, obviously it wouldn't really make that much sense. I guess I can imagine fitting his tail in the back or something like that, but I don't think it would have. I think it would have looked kind of cliche or overdone, so I didn't end up doing that. And what I ended up doing was adding like, okay, I'm trying to find this image while I'm talking, but it's a little bit hard. I don't know where I saved it. Honestly, I'll probably have an easier time finding it on my Twitter and then copying and pasting it onto my Sci program. It's taking an awfully long time to answer a simple question. So I was just saying, okay, that's instead of adding a tail, I added this like spiritual dragon thing floating around him instead, to add that dragon aspect in it, because without it you probably wouldn't be able to tell that he's supposed to be a dragon character or anything like that. So sometimes you have to make compromises. Is what I'm trying to say. Sometimes you can't fit something in the composition at all and you just gonna have to throw it away, ditch it. It's okay, the composition looks better without it, if that's the case. So you don't always have to have every single idea that you possibly thought of in your composition. How do I approach drawing hints? I think I get asked this question a lot, so I will answer it again. Okay, so as usual, I would say that you would break it down into shapes and... How ironic. Well, I'm trying to answer this question, the hand I'm drawing looks kind of shitty. I always have trouble with the thumb. I think that's like the one part of the hand that I just have a struggle with more than usual because of like the way it's attached to the hand. It's a little bit different from the other fingers. Anyway, the tutorial that I followed a long time ago that helped me, you know, understand drawing hands better, broke the hand down into a trapezoid pentagon. Yeah, I think I was trying to say pentagon. Some sort of a lopsided pentagon, and you kind of have to imagine a little bit. This is where the arm comes out of, this is where the fingers come out of, right? And this is where the thumb comes out of. So that helps you get the base shape of the palm down. It's I have seen other tutorials draw like a cube for the palm, and in my opinion that makes a lot more stiffer looking hand. Thank you, QJ, for donating. Hi, Cecile. I hope you're doing okay. I have an art question. How do you save your artwork in such good quality on Twitter? Every time I post on Twitter, the quality drops. Okay, I have a question for you, QJ. How big are your images, and how do you post them onto Twitter? Do you post them as PNGs, JPEGs, etc.? Because I never really... sorry. I never really had a problem with Twitter compression. I had problems with like other website compressions, like Instagram, for example. But on Twitter, I never really had a problem posting images. I just post them as is. I save it as a PNG and I post it. And I don't really, pay that much attention to it. 5K times 3K as a JPEG. Okay, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure why you would be having an issue, because I think it's similar to what I do, and I think JPEG is technically better quality than PNGs. It might be the browser you're using. This is really strange, but once I opened up Twitter, or it was Instagram, I think, on Microsoft Edge, and then I opened it up on Google, and it looked different. It was like blurrier on one and clearer on the other. Embers, thank you for the $10 donation. Is it sim time? Well, that's up to you. Okay, so to continue with this hand tutorial, I would usually demarcate an area for the second knuckle, and most simplified hands don't do the third knuckle. Most of the time, they don't. I think it's honestly not that noticeable. Like, I don't think people really go like, hey, that hand only has 2 knuckles. So I would say that you don't really have to, like, go that far to make 3 knuckles. Yeah, and then one thing to notice is that the fingers are different lengths. I think a lot of times people forget this when the hand is in a different position. So, for example, if you're drawing someone making the peace sign. Okay, this is gonna be a really quick and crappy peace sign. Anyway. Okay, let's just say this is the peace sign, right? The middle finger is still gonna be slightly longer than the index finger, and I think people might forget that because they're like, oh, it's a peace sign, and they don't really like pay attention to the details. Yeah, so you could apply this simplified trick to like different positions of the hand. One nice thing about hands is that they are rather flat, which makes them a little bit easier than if they were like have more shape, like feet. I think feet are hard. Feet have more shape than hands, which makes them have harder to draw in different angles. So just like remember the shape of the palm, and to have like the knuckles curved, and then you should be able to have like a better looking hand than if you didn't know these tricks. It's not really tricks, tips, yes. It's a weird little mitten hand going on right here. Okay, I don't really want to draw the entire hand, but yeah, you know what I'm trying to say, right? Just apply the things I said to like different angles, things like that. Where's my card code? Excuse me? First of all, not art related. Okay, let's see. What else? I'm looking at the chat right now. Let me just Rosie's quick and crappy still better than mine. Well, okay, you might not think it's crappy, but the reason why I say that is because I notice mistakes. And I don't want to say it's perfect. I think it's more misleading if I go like, yeah, look at my hand. This is how you draw it, and this is the best thing you'll ever see. Okay. Berlin Channel, thank you for donating. Hey Cecile, I love to see you here. Would you say it's important to keep lines clean, or would you say there's value in keeping it messy? So once again, because art is subjective, this has a subjective answer. There are people who love super clean lines, but personally, my personal taste is I like it when the lines are messy. I think it adds some character to the artwork. I think it makes the artwork look more authentic and like human created instead of machine created. And I think these days, you might notice that people are they're aiming for authenticity when it comes to arts and crafts because of how like far technology has come with like digital programs that can mimic artistic things. And then people are like, oh, digital art is easy because the computer draws it for you and stuff like that, because they don't have like the correct concept of how digital art is created. So I like the messy lines because it adds the awesome authenticity that a lot of times you might be missing from digital art. Hi Zoo, welcome to the stream. What do I like to draw? Well, you might know this from all my drawings, but I like to draw characters. I think that is just how I describe what I like to draw. I like drawing character art. I don't draw a lot of much else, honestly. I wouldn't say that I would refuse to draw something else. It's just not that much within my interest to draw like sceneries, backgrounds, stuff like that. But as an artist, it's always good to stay versatile, especially if you're looking for a job in the industry. But for me, since I'm kind of just drawing for fun, I do stick a little bit too close to just things that I enjoy to draw instead of pushing myself to try like super different things. What drawing tablet am I using? I'm using the Intuos Wacom Intuos Pro Medium? I don't know if I said that in the correct order, but it's always in my description. Intuos Pro Medium. Yes. Thank you, Annie. Oh, Annie, hello. Did not say hello to you yet. You know me better than myself at this point. I'm very forgetful. So, you're probably right. There's probably someone out there who remembers more of what I said about myself in my streams than I remember myself. Ah, you're new. Do I do traditional art as well, or just digital? I did. The way I'm answering this question, like, okay, I did do traditional art before. I would not say I am a traditional artist just because I don't do it for fun. The only times I ever did traditional art was for art classes or because my art instructor, you know, it's like that's what they want to see. So I'm like, okay, so I did traditional art for those types of situations, and that was I would say that it was very helpful for me to develop my fundamentals while I was doing that kind of stuff. But I never ever like went out of my way to do it. I just find digital art to be more convenient. Yuli, thank you for resubbing as a member. Did I first begin to draw or my sister? So me and my sister are twins, and I as long as I remember, we both just loved to draw as our hobby. So I don't think either one of us started drawing first before the other. And yes, she's still drawing now. She doesn't post on social media. Unfortunately, she does have one, but she doesn't really like social media. So you probably won't be able to find any of her recent stuff on social media. But yeah, her plan is to become a professional artist. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is why you should not draw while you're so zoomed in. I don't even know what I was drawing here. I was just drawing without even looking. Okay. Also, sometimes I draw a sketch and then I'm like, okay, this is good enough. I'm gonna draw the clean version on top of it now. When it probably could have used more fixes and stuff like that. Like, when I started drawing this eye, I already knew I was gonna struggle with it. Probably could have done better with the guidelines here. Do I prefer a screen drawing tablet or screenless drawing tablet? So I used to have like a super sure answer to this, but now my answer is more ambiguous and ambivalent. Mixed. Basically, I draw on a pen tablet, so one that doesn't have a screen, when I'm on my computer. And then I did have a screen tablet before, and I never really like loved it so much that it made me want to switch to using that. So I would used to say that I liked pen tablets and I didn't like screen tablets, but recently I found that I really like drawing on the iPad, which is a screen tablet. And I've been doing like so many drawings on the iPad lately for my commission work and stuff like that. So stuff that I'm not posting, that I like it better than drawing on the computer. So I guess it depends on your personal preference. I guess that's the answer to a lot of things. Just find out what you like. You could start with the cheaper options. Not waste your money on like $1,000 Wacom screen tablet and then realize that it's not for you. But there are pros and cons to either one. I think for now I'm gonna move on from this eye. I think this is something that I need to like put all my concentration into. Because this angle of the character is a little bit different from like the angles I usually do. Let's see, what else? You used to want to be an artist, but you never truly reached the point you wanted. About how many hours of practice is needed to reach a level of skill similar to mine? I don't know if I would be able to count that since I've been drawing for years. But wasn't there like this saying or little known fact that you need to do something for 10 years to become a professional at it? I think that's like a common known idea. I don't know what I'm saying, but I heard something like that. And of course, it's like 10 years of like, what? Almost daily doing it? I don't know, but I haven't been drawing for 10 years. I've been drawing for more like... Let me count real quick. I always like say a different number every time because I can't count properly. And this is digitally, by the way, because doodling on paper and stuff like that, I've been doing my whole life. 8, I would say. 8 years? Probably more around 8 years. And I don't think I'm a professional yet. I would say I'm semi-professional. Obviously, I don't think I would call myself a professional until I go out of my way to learn stuff that I am purposely avoiding to learn out of like not having interest for it. What are some tips on how to shade / render stuff out. Okay, so shading takes a lot of technique that I don't think I can answer in like one go. So I'm just gonna give you some general advice here, which is start with really simple shading. Start with base colors even. Don't shade. Oh, unless you already got that far. Start with making your base colors look really good. And you can make a complete drawing with just base colors, and it will look complete if you use the correct colors. So start there, start from the beginning, and then do like block shading, cell shading, just simple shading, and then start adding like block highlights. Maybe do like that style where you have block shading, but there are several shades, several blocks for one shade. So for example, instead of having like, let me just do something real quick here. Okay, let's say her skin is blue. I just think it's easier to use a bright color, you can see better. So if you do like a simple block shading, you might put like one shadow here to like denote some three-dimensionality in her face. But then you can make the block shading more complicated by having like 2 shadows. And then they're both still just blocks. You're not doing any blending or anything like that. But already, you know, you're getting more practice with how the colors work and how the shadows work, where they should fall and stuff like that. So I would start simple like this. I wouldn't go like straight into like airbrushing and blending. You know, you could. I'm not stopping you from doing it, but I think this is a better way to learn. Let me see. Nolis, thank you for donating. Here, have my first super chat. Found your channel last year, right before your debut. Your chill art streams and Isaac's music makes this my most liked channel right now. Senescence was my most repeated song. Thank you, and I'm sure Isaac would be really happy to hear that too. I know that he is really proud of the music that he made on my channel. Bleeding the blue skin for now. Alright, let's see. How do I deal with frustration or art envy? You mean that I get frustrated or get envious when seeing other artists' works and when you compare your works? Yes, of course. Every artist experiences. And how do I deal with it? I would say to dissociate yourself from seeing those works for some time. I think, okay, so maybe this isn't like the best advice. Kind of sounds a little bit like avoidance to me. Now that I'm saying it. But I would say it helps me. Like sometimes I look at social media so much that I'm like, oh, I feel so bad about myself. Those people are doing so much better than me. Why is that? Like, is my art not good enough? And then I feel better when I just stop introducing myself into a space that evokes those thoughts. Like when I focus on myself a little bit, and then I'm like, okay, you know what? I like my art. I think my art is great. I don't really care about what other people's art is, like how they're doing on social media. I'm focused on myself right now. I think that's what helps me. That's how I deal with it. It's been a long time since you last catched a Sissy stream live. It's also been a long time since I streamed live. Okay, adding the scar across her nose. It's either you get envious or you get motivated. I don't know about you, but I noticed that it depends. There is a formula to this, what makes me envious and what makes me motivated. So I noticed that if the artwork is like way above my skill level, like so good I can't imagine drawing it myself, I would be inspired. I'd be like, wow, this is the master's work right here. But if the artwork is like really close to my skill level, I get envious. I'm like, I can do that. And I guess that's just how psychology works. Calvin, welcome to the membership. It's kind of unfair to yourself to compare it with someone with like 6 years of experience. Yeah, for sure. I think if you're a beginner, especially if you're not... if you're someone... Okay, so I do think comparing yourself has its merits. If you're like in the industry, then of course you could learn from like how others are doing. But if you're just like a hobbyist and you're just beginning with artwork, I don't think you should compare yourself at all. Focus on yourself at that moment. And if you're looking at other people's artwork, have the mindset that it's to learn from them and not to compare if you're better or worse. Queen noticed me. Hello, Cecile. How glad I am to see you again. Hi, Don Gretcha. How glad I am to see you. And how sad that I can't donate. I hope you're doing well. We've been really looking forward to your streams. Good luck and good health. You too, Don. Very nice to see you again in the stream. Okay, I've been diddling daddling on her face for too long. Let me move on to another hand. Alright, a question. Have you ever studied all sorts of unique art styles before? Studied? I would say that I study art when I can. So when I see artwork, even if it's in a unique art style that I personally might not like, I always try to notice like what they did well. And I think this is a good practice as an artist. Not just other people's artwork, but just things in life. Like, oh, that is a very beautiful view. Why is it beautiful? And then you like notice stuff about the composition or things like that. Like just something you see in real life. It doesn't have to be art. And I think noticing things like that is what really trains your mind to have an artistic eye and will translate into your artwork. Which body part do I consider the hardest? For me, legs and feet, and that's just me because I don't draw them that often. I also find it harder to draw a person from a front view than it is to draw them from like an angled view. Because of the symmetry. Like they just start looking off from one thing being crooked, one thing or another being crooked. So the front view is hard for me as well. Hello, Maracuda. Thank you for being in my stream. How do I use references? You don't know how to copy the structure of models. Like trace over the images. How do I use references? I think that if you are unsure about how the structure looks like from your reference, you should pull up multiple references of the same object. And best if it's from different angles. So for me, at this moment in time, since I'm already like an experienced artist with some things, I could look at one reference and be like, oh, okay, I can guess how it works from the different angles that I can't see from the reference. So sometimes I get lazy with references and I only like use one reference to base the whole thing off of, my whole drawing. But yeah, I think you should find it helpful to use many references. Do I draw all my liner on one layer? I do, and that's just because I hate getting lost in layers. I hate having like 50 layers and not knowing what's on each layer. So I do try to keep as few layers as possible. And it does bite me in the butt sometimes, where I'm like, oh, this would have been way easier if this item was on a different layer. So yeah, it might not be the best thing, but I've found it to be more pleasant for me to do this. For my own workflow anyway. Are you the only one bad at drawing? Okay. I'm sure there are a lot of people in the chat who are either not artists or beginner artists, so I don't think you're the only one. Let's see. Have I considered making a comic or webtoon? I've considered it. I've also considered the fact that I probably would never do it. I think a lot of artists would love to make one because we all want to tell our own stories. We all have stories in our heads, and as an artist, we're blessed with the fact that we can draw it. And so it's a lot of, you know, it's a big dream to make a webcomic or manga. I forgot what story or manga. I forgot what you asked. But the reason why I don't think I'll ever do it is because it also takes so much work, and I don't know if I can justify that amount of work for me. I can't even imagine drawing enough art to have like an art book, let alone a novel, a graphic novel. Can't imagine drawing that much. But there are artists out there who can do it. You might be one of them, so don't give up on your dream if that is your dream. Lei, thank you for the donation. Also, I don't remember if I thanked Kelvin for becoming a member. Just looking at my notifications right now. Okay. Do I have any tips for the contrast? I do have tips for contrast. I in fact answered a question about contrast earlier in my server for members and Patreons. So let me just kind of regurgitate what I was saying in my server. Okay, so probably better if I pull up an example for this. Let me just save this drawing really quickly. Let's see, which picture should I use as an example? Okay, so the person in my server asked how do they make their art less muddy looking, and they wanted their art to have more contrast because they think their colors look dull and muddy. And I think the first thing that you would probably think of in your head is, why don't you just increase that little bar, like contrast, little editing bar? Like, wouldn't that increase the contrast? But if you have ever drawn an artwork and thought to yourself, ugh, this contrast, there's not enough contrast, and then you went onto like the editing menu and increase the contrast, you might have noticed that like still does not look that good. And that's because if you do that, then you're increasing the contrast for every value and every color. You're increasing the saturation and contrast for everything on your drawing, and sometimes you don't want to do that when you're drawing. That's not the best thing to do. I would say especially for saturation. I think if you have if you have a drawing and every color on it is super saturated, as bright as can be, that would not be too pleasant for the eyes. So I think this drawing that I just pulled up that I did has a very high contrast in this drawing, so that's why I pulled it up. And my advice would be to create some areas that are really dark, but not all dark colors should be that dark. So, for example, there could be one shadow that is really dark. So for this isn't that dark, but for example, this shadow under the tie here is a relatively dark shadow, while the shadow under the neck is a lighter shadow. And the dark shadow here helps create more contrast, because what contrast is having a large difference between the darkest value on your drawing and the brightest value on your drawing. So you don't want every dark color to be super dark, and I think that's where contrast goes wrong. Like for example, if I just do this, okay, if I do this, yeah, this is really high contrast, but also all the blacks are the exact same black and it looks shitty, right? So have like a difference. You need to have different values within the darkest colors and different values within the lightest colors, but still have that big range. The difference between the lightest color, like his face here, is very white, and then the background here is very dark, but the background still has a lot of different shades. Like there's gray here, there's like a blue here, there's grayish blue, there's black. So you need everything, basically, to have the contrast look good. You can't just have dark and then light. Try to have like a range within the dark and a range within the light. And another thing about the contrast that I wanted to say is, I feel like I'm bad at explaining, so I'm sorry if this doesn't make sense. But yeah, another thing I wanted to just say is the same thing for saturation. So something that happens when you increase the contrast bar is that the colors also get more saturated. But what you want is, you want some areas to be saturated, like this thing here, his earpiece, is like probably the brightest blue in this drawing. If I wanted, I could have used this blue and put it in his eyes. Like, ooh, that actually kind of looks good. Put it in his eyes. I could have used the same blue and have it like entirely for this thing here. And then the saturation for the whole drawing would become a lot more boring. So what I'm trying to say is have some selective areas be saturated, while some areas be less saturated. But that saturated area will help increase your contrast, or the looks, the values and contrast and saturation kind of all works together to make your drawing look more bright. Matt, thank you for donating. I felt like I was a little bit long-winded on that answer. Did you get the milk you were looking for? Matt, you should be very happy. Our fridge is stocked full of milk now. I was gone a very long time just to get you this milk. Do you turn it to gray to see the value correctly? I don't do this because I'm lazy, but it's a good thing to do. So when you turn it to be gray, all the colors that might be different hues will return to a single hue, gray, and then you can see the values for each other. Okay, that sentence I said just didn't make any sense. But it's a good way to check values, and the thing is, when your piece is colorful, it's easy to get confused between the hue and the value. So you could have a red and a green that are the exact same value, but since they're different hues, your brain is like, one looks darker than the other. So that's why it's nice to turn it to grayscale to see the values and be like, okay, this piece has really shitty values, and then work on that. And then by shitty values, I mean that everything is very similar in values. So a piece, you could technically draw a piece with all the same values, and then when you turn it into gray, it's just a whole like gray slate. You can't tell what is what. And what you want is to have the values bring focus to one area of the piece that you want to be the focal point, or, you know, emphasize the composition and stuff like that. I should clip what I just said as well, explained. I don't even know what you're referring to at this point because of the lag in the chat. But feel free to clip it. Okay, so let me explain this drawing a little bit. I'm drawing the creator of theCecile. So theCecile is my OC, which is also my persona, and she's an Android OC. And I wanted her backstory to be, you know, you could probably guess that she was created by like some scientist people, and then from there they release her into the world to see if she can emulate a human. And in my story, the plan is that no, she cannot emulate a human. She fails their test, so they keep making more theCecile versions, and to like try to succeed, and each one is a failure. So that's kind of like the setup of the plot of the story that I'm never gonna write. But this drawing here is trying to show a creator creating theCecile, and lo and behold, the creator is just a theCecile lookalike. And the reason why I thought this was clever, so one of my patrons gave me this idea and I was like, ooh, I think I'm gonna do it, is because I drew my own VTuber model. So I'm like, yeah, that's actually kind of cool. To make the creator me, but not me. And she doesn't have a name, her name is just the creator. Dad's drawing grandpa. Very true. Thank you for donating, Matt. Dr. Cecile making Android Cecile. Exactly. Turn it upside down to review your drawing. You'll be surprised how well it works. Yes, also flip it. I did not flip this drawing yet, so... okay, so for Sai, I like that Sai has this really convenient flipping button on the top. You can't see it on the screen, but it's like right at the top there, it says inverse. And I think this helps you check things, since your brain can get used to seeing your drawing one way, and then you can't really tell if it's good or not. Not good, but like lopsided or not, and flipping it will give you a new perspective that you never knew you needed. Alright, let's see, what else? How much longer is this surprise stream approximately? Ooh, was it a surprise stream? I felt like I announced this stream. Well, I guess it's a surprise stream because I did it. I kind of gave up streaming. I kind of stopped streaming. But I think it will go on for... Okay, so only 1 hour passed. I think it will go on for at least 1 more hour. We'll see. I like having my streams to be a little bit around 3 hours? Or somewhere around then? I think 3 hours is a good amount of time. I think 2 hours is a good amount of time too, although a little bit on the shorter side. Okay, so I'm planning for this one eye to be like super in the shadows. So I don't really plan to draw like too many details there. Maybe I'll totally black out that area. Let's see. Reading chat right now. Math, okay, it's chat time. Ooh. Have you ever studied some, do you ever study some of the classical or historical artists? Do you think that studying their works is as good as modern artists? Modern artists. So, okay, when you said modern artists, my first thought was abstract art. Because you were comparing it to historical classical artists, but I don't think that's what I think you mean, like digital artists or like social media artists. That's probably what you're referring to. And I would say that studying the historical masters would probably be better for learning fundamentals. I think a lot of social media artists, you don't necessarily have to be good at art to be popular on social media, right? I mean, good is subjective, but I mean good at the fundamentals, so like the classical training type of good, which some artists would argue that you don't need to create art, but I would say it depends on what you're trying to draw. If you want to draw like a human body, it might be nice to know the fundamentals. Even if you're drawing like Adventure Time or something super stylized, you know, they still have proportions, they're still consistent. Yeah, so the masters of history, at least the ones I'm thinking of in my head right now, like Monet and stuff like that, they have good fundamentals, especially for colors, I've noticed. They have really great fundamentals, so it'd be really cool to study those if you ever get yourself to do such a thing. Alright, let me move on to her torso a little bit. It's also nice to rotate the canvas while you're drawing. You might notice that it makes things easier since your hand likes to move in this motion, since that's like the natural motion of your arm joints. So it makes it easier to draw some things when you rotate. Matt, thank you for donating. I think it kind of depends on what kind of style you want to develop. That's true. I think that studying social media artists and the likes is more helpful for developing a style. So fundamentals is the first step, but you don't stop there unless you want to draw realism or hyper-realism even. Then you don't really want to stylize when you're doing realism. But when you want to stylize and draw cartoons, it's about creativity, and looking at how other people stylize will help you figure out what you want to stylize like. So yes, good point, Matt. It does depend on what style you're going for. Let's see. The Old Masters are the Old Masters for a reason. Their work is a valuable learning resource even when we're drawing fan art. Well said. I think recently I saw this TikTok where they were talking about like tips on drawing folds in clothing, and I was like, hey, I need that. So I watched it and they said to study the master's work, and then they showed, I don't know what artist, I don't really remember the artist that they were showing, but they showed some artwork that was just phenomenal, and I was like, whoa, you normally don't really see social media artists with that level of skill. A few years ago, you drew fan art of various shows and games like Nier Automata. Would you like to do that again, or would you consider that to be over? So, the only reason why I'm drawing less fan art these days is because I haven't really been a huge fan of things. I feel like a lot of the media I consume doesn't really fall into like the social media fandom, fan art, anime especially, community, and so I never feel like I want to draw fan art of it. So like I watch a lot of TV shows with like real people. I can't really, I guess I could, but don't really feel like drawing fan art of that. And I just haven't been watching too much anime or consuming much game content, which is the only reason why I'm not drawing as much fan art as I used to. But sometimes I do feel really inspired by like a character design and feel like I want to draw them. You should have 3 artists in mind at least when trying to bring your style through its metamorphosis. This is a good point, and I would like to emphasize 3 at least. And I think this is a good point because if you only have 1 artist or even 2 artists, your art might look too similar to these 2 artists' works, which, although people say you can't steal someone's style, I would say it kind of makes you stuck in this weird little area where you're just trying too hard to mimic another artist, and then that's not great for your growth, and that artist might also have some problems with it. Okay, so she doesn't have any arms. You love the grayscale method, but you're struggling to color it on Ibis Paint. I've never used Ibis Paint, but I noticed that Photoshop is really good for coloring in grayscale art. So by the grayscale method, I am assuming you're talking about drawing an artwork completely in the grayscale and then coloring it after that. Like having the gray first and then adding colors on top of the values you created. And I think I never tried that myself. I might have tried it like once or twice in the past, but like not enough for me to say I have experience with it. But that's, I think, a lot of what is it, like classically trained artists, people who go to art school, do stuff like that. So I would say this technique probably is like tested and it works, so it's probably a good technique. That's all I have to say about it. Matt, thank you for donating again. Did you have a look at Lamb, illustrator to Ollie at Hololive? I think her style is a good photo to yours, very high saturation. Bright red blood. I am familiar with Ollie's model. I think I did look at her artist once, maybe. Maybe a while ago, because I don't really remember that well. But yeah, I think pointing her out is a good way to point out that some styles do use really high saturation and still looks good. So sometimes people are like, oh, don't use saturated colors, use pastels. Actually, I saw that tutorial earlier that one of my patrons sent me that was talking about using pastel colors because saturated colors are less pleasant. And I was thinking, yeah, this is a good start for your fundamentals. I think people tend to use too many saturated colors when they're just beginning because you're like, oh, bright and pretty. And so you use a saturated color for every color you use. But you could definitely develop your style to include really saturated colors and have it look amazing because it's about like the selective usage of saturation. And once again, there's just many ways that you can do things with art and colors, and it's subjective to if somebody thinks it looks good or not. Being able to mimic styles is definitely a valuable skill for observation, being able to identify key aspects of another artist's work and translating that. Yeah, and it sounds like you're saying this as like a learning tool, but I would say that it's also a useful skill as an industry professional. A lot of times you have to mimic another artist's work because you're working with several artists, and the art director or whoever your boss is like, yeah, they all have to look the same. So please draw exactly like how this other artist draws like. And then you have to do that. So it's a valuable skill. The iffiness comes in when it's just you're posting on social media for fun and you're mimicking an artist who like doesn't know about this, and then like people are commenting on your stuff like, I thought this was Blink artist. Let's see. A question from this teeny tiny drawer. Any advice on how to work with grays? You mean blacks and whites only? Sorry, I can't explain myself. I enjoy thine streams and art. Advice on how to work with grays. I don't do it very often, but I do think working with grays is easier, would be easier than working with many colors. So I kind of want to hear more about what you find is hard or what you're struggling with when it comes to working with grays. Also, I realized earlier when I said that you could send me an artwork for me to redline or give critique on my Twitter. I never gave you my Twitter, so my Twitter is @theCecile. It's probably in the description. I think it's in the description somewhere. Yeah, you can still do that if you want. I think it'd be kind of fun. I think this concept might work better if I told people to submit artwork prior to the stream. But yeah, you know, if you want to do it, I'm open. Oh, Sean, thank you for linking, but I mean my Twitter, not my Instagram. But it is the same, theCecile. Instagram would probably be okay, but I find Instagram DMs to be extremely confusing and badly organized. It might just be me, but I always felt that way about Instagram DMs. Thank you, Sean. Matt, thank you for donating. There was another interesting artist you found in March. Does a lot of tech wear and sci-fi handheld equipment. Could probably dig them up on Twitter. Yes, I wonder which artist you're talking about. It's always so cool to see another artist and I look at their page and I'm like, oh, they're drawing stuff that I like to draw. This is so cool. Because, you know, there's so many artists out there that you don't always find stuff like that. How do I get inspired or motivated to draw? One great motivation that I don't think I mentioned before in other streams is talking with people who enjoy the same things you enjoy, and so you guys can bounce ideas off each other. For example, if you're both creative people who create stories, creative people who create. Yeah. If you're people who create stories and have original characters in your heads and you want to talk with someone about it, and I think this is why people do roleplay actually. It's kind of like creating a story with someone else that has a shared interest point, aka your two original characters interacting together. And that's that could be very inspiring, since it gives you ideas. It gives you more ideas and situations that you could draw or create in whatever form of art that you do. Mohammed, thank you for the donation. It's always awkward to see people replying to your stories on Instagram. I know, right? Don't really know why they added that feature. I mean, I'm sure there are people who love it, but for me, I always thought it was awkward too. I think once, you know how Twitter added the feature that was like stories, and you could like reply to the story. I think once I posted a story on Twitter, and then someone replied to my story, and then they were like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know I was gonna send you a DM." I thought that was hilarious. because like it's just so weird that they put that into your DMs. Nicto, hello. Hello, little Nick. Thank you for donating. Don't worry, I'm here, my queen. Have the Sims tarnish thine supple visage with their tomfoolery? I shall smite them where they stand. They shall rue this day. Very dramatic entrance, Nicto, as expected of you. Matt, thank you for donating again. They did a cool artwork from the perspective of a robot unable to detect that there are protesters in front of it. Based on real research on camouflage makeup that makes them invisible to the computer. That sounds like a sci-fi plot that I'm willing to watch a movie about. You know, I like sci-fi a lot, to the point where I would watch shitty sci-fi movies with cliche plots and fully enjoy them. What basic shapes do I personally find easier incorporating into sketches when learning/studying poses? I heard that people say artists should use squares, triangles, or even rhombuses. I would say the more complicated the shape, the better. And since it's still a shape, it can't get that complicated. Like, I wouldn't say like a whole human body is human shaped. I wouldn't say to draw a human shape or anything like that. But it depends on your skill level. So if you can't handle a more complicated shape, you can start with like more simple shapes like circles. I would say to stick with round shapes when you're drawing a person, just because of the fact that our bodies are not blocks, and when people start with cubes and stuff like that, I think the art comes out really stiff looking, at least from what I've seen here and there. So I would say start with circles. So this is just a quick little example here. Head, torso, pelvis, arms. It obviously would be better if you had like some guidelines so you don't get things all crooked and shit like that. And then you kind of start connecting the items here and there. Okay, so it's good to know where parts of the body start and end in relation to other parts of the body. So the arm, I think the elbow is usually around where your belly button is, and then I think your hand usually ends a little bit above the like midway point from. Wait, no. It's like somewhere in the middle of the thigh, but like above it. I don't draw a lot of full bodies. That's why I'm saying I think. 1 second. Vids, thank you for the orange donation. Feels great to catch up with the Cecile stream after such a long time. Well, hello Sayak, how are you doing? Please teach me the ways of a hand. I covered hands a little bit earlier in the stream. I don't know the timestamp or anything like that, but you could probably scroll back and figure, see where that is. I have a like great urge to stand up and see where my hand ends right now. So something great about doing anatomy is being able to use your own body as reference. Okay, so since this is just a quick example, I'm gonna go with this. So yeah. Where the knee is, where the elbow is. Use round shapes here and there. This person does not have feet. But that's like a simple way of doing it. What I think is more useful for me is complicating the torso to be shaped like a rib cage. So this is a little bit more complicated than just circles. Have the torso be a rib cage and have the pelvis be like pelvis shaped. So it could be just an upside down triangle. Actually, no. Here we go. Upside down cone. The ones that go on dogs' necks. So yeah, I think the more, you know, the more complex a shape gets, the more accurate and fluid your anatomy starts looking. But, you know, start from the bottom and go up. There are lots of tutorials on YouTube that covers stuff like that. Nick Doe, thank you for donating. By the way, how's the whole you Eden project you're doing? You Eden these nuts. Eden. Okay, sorry, I pronounced it wrong and ruined your joke. Matt B, thank you for the donation. Current computer vision, sorry. Current computer vision doesn't really understand everything it sees. We build detectors for specific things like faces or the outline of a person, disrupt key features, and you become invisible. Yes. Learning how to trick machines 101. Nice try, Nick, though. I'm sorry, but, you know, I feel quite proud of myself that I ruined Nikto's attempts. Accidentally, as it may be. Yeah, I felt that arm looked quite flat, so I'm fixing it. How do you look past the imperfection in your drawing when you first start a piece? What do you mean by this? Do you mean when you're a beginner artist and you have imperfections in your drawing no matter how hard you try to fix it? Or when you're just drawing a sketch and your sketch has imperfections, but eventually you can fix it? Because if it's the beginner thing, honestly, I would be impressed if you were able to see your own imperfections. I wouldn't really say it to look past them. I would say to point them out, note them down, and like figure out, like teach yourself how to fix it. Seeing your imperfections as someone who is still learning is the first step to being able to fix it. And if it's just like a sketch thing that you're talking about where you're like, oh, my sketch looks so shitty, how do I look past this? Well, I would say keep drawing. And it will look better. I don't really know what you meant by that question. Have I thought about my backstory a little bit more? No. Everything we talked about is as far as I got. I would have thought about it further if I had the time to, since back when I started the sketch was when I was like really thinking about it, and then I got distracted by a bunch of other stuff and commissions, and then I wasn't able to focus on this. But when I have the free time, I'll think of something. Matt, thank you for the donation. Kind of like how you can say fuck all day long and Susan doesn't get mad. The letters are swapped, text feature disrupted. Oh, sorry, it's fsk. Did not mean to, not get disrupted by that spelling. Let's see. Advice on clothing. Advice on clothing. Okay, so I'm debating whether I should try to give advice on clothing or not, because I feel like clothing is one of those things that I personally need a lot of improvement on. Like, I get by. I draw some stuff that looks okay, but I wouldn't call myself a master by any means of drawing clothing. And you're probably looking for like advice on folds and wrinkles and stuff like that, which I probably can't give you. I mean, I can, but I don't trust myself to relay this information accurately enough to hundreds of people, so I won't. But I can give you some really simple tips on clothing that might be like a little bit off topic from what you're asking, but one thing that I noticed beginners tend to forget when they're drawing clothing is that clothing has thickness. It's thick. It's not thin like a sheet of paper. So, for example, if you're drawing a shirt collar, whoops. You could draw it like this, and then sure, that conveys the information that it's a collar and everything. But then, let me just shrink this and then copy and paste it so you can see stuff next to each other. Tips on coloring white hair. Yes, I'll do that next, since I love drawing white hair. Okay. Or you could add a little bit more like flowiness and have the color have like, you can tell that it's sort of cloth and it has some form to it, it has some three-dimensionality. Even here on the sides, make it come out because it's folding over itself. All that fun stuff. Yeah. A quick little example here of adding some thickness to your clothing. Okay, getting rid of that now. So I was gonna do it here on the collar that I'm drawing myself, but I thought it would be easier for you guys to see if it was like its own little thing with the before and after. Okay, so when I'm drawing colors, I typically like adding like a thickness. Even if the cloth is super thin in reality, I think this just adds like that little detail, extra detail that makes your drawing stand out a little bit more. But do keep in mind that if you make the cloth look really thick, your character might start looking like they're wearing winter clothing. And sometimes that's not what you're going for. Let's see. Alright, white hair. Okay, so I think this one might be easier if I pull up an example. But I might also just like draw an own little my own little white hair thing right now. I kind of need like a person for this though. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna pull up an example. So I don't think, because I can use her head, but her head's covered by a whole hand. I don't think it's great to use her head. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up 2 examples, I guess. Wait, let's get rid of that. Platinum. I have not played Crystar or Crystar? Crystar? What is this? You love white hair, but fuck trying to color, and then it seems too gray. I notice I have this problem sometimes too, when I'm drawing white hair and I'm like, it's starting to look too gray. But then I think it's a really easy fix to put like a editing layer right above the white hair, and then putting like multiply. I mean, not multiply. So sorry. Overlay at like white or bright yellow or really light color, and then it automatically starts looking lighter and more like white instead of gray. Actually, let me pull up. I want to pull up my VTuber model. V-Day. Hello, V-Day, by the way. I was just about to read your knowledge. IDK, if it's a... Oh, sorry, this is a question. I thought I saw a long paragraph and I thought you were answering someone's question. I think if it's a clear question, but looking back at your art journey, is there a time you feel like you improved a lot, like an advice or a skill you mastered, and you realized it really helped you improve? For example, personally, in MV, I realized I improved a lot when I started to think and focus about overall color balance and direction. Okay, yes. I think there was a moment that I felt like I improved a lot. Let me just put a pin in that thought while I answer this white-haired question really quickly. Hopefully I don't forget. VTuber model, hello? Okay. So the reason why I wanted to pull up my VTuber model is because she doesn't have white hair, she has gray hair. And I wanted to say that if you think your white hair is looking too gray, there's 2 easy things to do to make it look white, which is 1, increase the brightness and contrast, and try not to go too far, otherwise it's gonna start looking bad, too washed out, you know? Maybe focus more on brightness than contrast. So let me copy and paste this. You know what? Let me redo this so I can have a before and after. Okay, and then another thing. Clipping group, and just the hair, by the way. Don't increase the contrast of the entire drawing. That's why I needed the PSD file to do this. And then create like an overlay on top of this and have like a really light color. I tend to like having like a peachy color. Let me just show you what it looks like. Oh, that's not what I was trying to do. Okay, so this is what the color looks like by itself. I tend to like having a peachy color instead of white. And then I would set it on overlay, have it be in a clipping group over the hair, and then I would airbrush the hair, specifically around the face area. Okay, that's a little bit too peachy for my taste. I'm gonna go a little bit more gray there. And then adjust it as I see fit. If I think it's too bright or something. I think this is good enough. So, white hair, gray hair. The easy way to make your gray hair look more white, since you were saying that when you color white hair, it turns out to look more gray. And I might even recommend, so okay, so this character that I put up here, her white hair is very washed out looking, and I did that on purpose. So the easiest way to make this type of effect is to have the line art be a light color as well, and then use the technique I was telling you with like brightness and then overlay with the peach color to make the hair look very bright. So that's like the easiest way, I would say, to make white hair look clean and not like gray and muddy, which I can imagine could be your issue with drawing white hair. Hopefully that answered your question. I'm not too sure if it did. Well, let's move on to the other question I was going to answer. Which was Vita's question of when I felt like I had like a big improvement. And I think one moment that I can pinpoint in my head is... I'm trying to pull up the artwork while I'm talking about this. Let's see. Reading the chat meanwhile. I'm waiting for the thing to load. Do I have advice on hair? I have a whole tutorial on hair. It's one of my most viewed videos, so I think on my front page there's a section that says most popular uploads, and it's like the 5th one down or something like that. So I think that can get you started on sketching hair, fundamentals of sketching hair. Okay, so this was a drawing I was trying to pull up. So when I was drawing this set of artwork, which is several artworks that I was doing for like a music video project, I was the person who did the colors. Yes, I had to remind myself. Here are the credits for all the other artists that worked on this. So I was the person who did the colors, and I think I had like a breakthrough moment. Might be a little bit of a dramatic way of describing it, but one of the things that I usually do when I'm coloring for these types of projects, since we have to draw like so many faux bodies, is I try to do like really quick colors, and then it ends up looking kind of shitty. But then for this project, I think I found a really good balance between drawing quick art and still making it look good. So I figured out what colors I liked using that I could easily produce by using editing layers, like overlay and multiply and screen and stuff like that. And then so I would draw all these details first without editing layers. They were all gray and muddy and looked really bad. And that's because like I don't have to think that hard to do that, because I was doing it quickly. And then I would put editing layers on top of that would make the colors look good. And I think this project was where like I figured out exactly how to manipulate the editing layers in a way that I liked. And after that, I was able to draw more artworks using the colors that I liked without using so many editing layers. So I kind of like took what I learned, what looked good from my experience in this project, and applied it in a way that I could replicate it with like just choosing the color instead of depending on the editing layers. Hopefully that made sense. Okay, yeah, that's my answer to that question. Thank you, VD. Max? Thank you for joining the membership. How do I motivate myself to keep up drawing and practice? How long do you draw seriously / professionally? Around 8 years. And I do agree with you that it's very not motivating to sit down and be like, okay, today is a learning day. I'm just gonna draw poses to practice. And I think for me, the most motivating way to learn is to learn while you are creating things that you care about. So you don't have to draw like a pose of a naked lady that you don't really give a shit about. You can draw a pinup of your favorite anime waifu or something like that. I think that should help you with motivating. You can learn and draw what you like at the same time. It's not one or the other. CB really force you to improve fast because there's never enough time. That is true. Although I don't really view my time in the CB community as that positive, I can admit that it helped me improve a lot as an artist. Okay, this table is just not supposed to be crooked. Wait, maybe it should be crooked. Hey, I think I'll keep it crooked. Might change my mind later, but I think it adds a new perspective. Okay, I'll keep it this way for now. I kind of want to add a shadow. Something I like to do when drawing my like base color style is making completely black shadow areas. I think since it's just base colors and not a lot of shading, it's really easy for the contrast to be lacking, which is why I do these really dark shadows in the line art to help the contrast look better. No, it's okay, VD. How do I study the face? You tried so often but can't progress. Do you have tips for composition? I suppose these are two different questions. Okay, so for composition, I noticed that a lot of people are lacking even like the most basic idea of composition, and you could very easily amend this by looking at a quick tutorial online that covers the most basic compositions that always look good. I mean, I'm gonna say always, that's a strong word, but will look better than if you like made it up, I guess, made up the composition without having this knowledge. It's kind of like one of those things where there are rules that I can't like regurgitate on top of my head. So which is why I'm suggesting you to do like find a really quick tutorial on Google, and it will probably help you a lot more than I could right now. Tips on drawing snouts? Do you mean like animal snouts? Every time I narrow my eyes, it's like me thinking, do I know the answer to this question? Because even though I can draw animals, I wouldn't say I'm like so good at it I would give advice. Let's see, drawing robots and androids. I do have an answer for this. So I think an easy way to create an android body is to look at the muscle groups of a human person. So I'm just finding one really quickly. So when you're trying to draw like an android body, you're like, oh, how do I make this look detailed and how do I make it look like a robot? But I still want it to make sense, right? So since I'm not like a mechanic or somebody who makes robots, I can't really like give you advice on making it make sense, like look like it's a functional robot that could be designed into a real-ass robot by a real person. But if you look at the muscle groups, this is a good way to separate the body into shapes. So I'm gonna trace this as an example, so I don't have to like, you know, I can do this quickly. But I need the basic human body. And then the muscle groups could be like where the android has plates on their body that separates them. Separates parts of the body from other pieces of the body. So I'm drawing like a little glowy area in the middle, like Iron Man. And then following the muscle groups as I suggested. You could add like a notch here or there because this is a machine. You could have the neck separated into more shapes. Usually when you're looking at an android, the biceps stand out because who doesn't love biceps? So let's make this a little bit more exaggerated. Oh, not biceps, deltoids, sorry. Who doesn't love deltoids? And then maybe you want to add something here, like want to add a little space that's open, and then you can see like this is really small. The wires in the neck that kind of resemble the carotid artery and all of that good shit that's in there. You can make the
bye thanks for the advice, theCecile.
abs look more, you know, mechanical. So instead of having like all those little curves here and there, you could just do like lines. Okay. And then you could just keep going, add more little like panos on the body in various areas, add like a way that the waist transitions into the leg. Usually there isn't too much focus on the groin area unless you're an NSFW artist. Okay, adding more notches here and there. Just make this a little bit more simple so I can get on with it. Another pano. Okay, something that I don't like here. Okay. Let's just cut this arm off. Let's get rid of that. Let's add some wires coming out of it. That does not look like wires, that looks like the freaking bone. And then let's write something on him. Oh, he's way too small to write on. Okay, let's just put Android. Okay, this is way too big. Whatever, I'm not writing on him. Let's put like a number on his arm. More like cables. Okay, fine. I call cables and wires like the same. Because they're just little electricity conductors? Or whatever they are. Adding like a little bit more detail to the non-human parts. Let's do something here. Oops. Wow, look how small it is. Okay, I don't think I like the shape of these pecs. I'm gonna make them look more geometric. And let's add some like pretty little lights here. Yeah, I'm saying they're lights because in my head I'm imagining them to be a bright color, but you can't tell. And then just to illustrate my point, I'm gonna fill this in with some gray looking Android colors. For some reason I'm starting to feel like I'm not even answering your question at this point. I'm just drawing my own little thing now. Okay. Let's color some Android colors, meadow colors. Whoops. As long as you enjoy it. Okay. And then let's like, every Android needs like some bright little like shiny stuff on him, right? Let's do that. And then there we go. Kind of did an impromptu Android body right here. Yeah, so that was my advice, to follow the muscle groups, and then you can kind of get an idea of how to separate the body into different little shapes that you can make look more geometric and have more sharp angles so it looks less organic and more robotic. Ben 10? Is this Ben 10? I think this is Ben 10 green. Dana! Welcome to the level 5 of my membership. Genji! Ooh, yeah, I think I was kind of thinking of Genji. Enemy from Dark Souls? I don't play Dark Souls. I know that's a popular game. I can't even think of what the enemies look like. Aren't they just armored people with swords? I mean, I know they're like wraths or ghosts or... Actually, I know nothing. I'm not gonna even try to speak about Dark Souls. Okay, how to study the face. Draw in different angles and... Second question, you use the saturated colors on your drawings, but they never look muddy. How to do it? Okay, so for angles of the face, let's start with this one. Once again, we're gonna break the face down into shapes, and I cannot draw a circle. I'm gonna show you a really simple way to break it down into shapes. So the circle is the cranium or the skull. It's not the whole head. It's only the skull, so I'm gonna make a front profile just for you. Even though I hate front profiles. I'll do a side one after this. Say the chin is here. What you want is you want a line for where the eyes are. Typically, the eyes are somewhere between the halfway point of like the top of the head and the chin. But you could have it for anime, for example, you could have it lower so the character looks cuter, since they have really large eyes and all that. And then it's very important to have these guidelines when you're drawing the face from like an angle, because I think another thing that beginners tend to do is they lose track of where the midline is, like where the middle of the face is. Okay, since this is gonna be like a more of like an anime character, I'm not gonna put that much details into the facial features. So just have like mark where you want these basic facial features to be. And then when you're drawing the chin, remember about like the jaw and then the cheek. So you don't want the face to be a complete, like, you know, like alien face. You want it to have a little bit of shape here, like that. And you can soften it if you're drawing a more like female child character or something like that. But you still want this shape to be there. And then when I said cheek, I was thinking of a side profile, or not side profile, like an angle. Okay, jeez. Where you have to remember that there's this cheekbone, which is like specifically under the eye, and like you don't want the whole face to be just either like round or like too flat. So just remember like some basic anatomy like that. And then it's probably better to draw angle for the face, honestly. That's when you see more features on the face. When you're drawing the angle for this guideline that I just gave you. Designing original emblems and symbols, I think that is within graphic design territory, and I am not a graphic designer. Although I may like make a graphic design here and there, I don't think I can give any like tips on that. And I kind of just make it up as I go, use my gut, since I don't really know what I'm doing. Graphic design is very... I think it has a lot to do with composition, I would say. Yeah. Okay. So let's have the jaw. Okay, so I have the ear, have the jaw. So remember that the circle is just the skull, not the entire head. I think for me that's more useful than drawing the entire head, because I don't think the head is a circle at all. I think the head has a lot more to it than just a circle, so I don't like using the circle as the entire head. We have this, but then you have to remember that there's a brow bone and a cheekbone. So now your face has some shape and it's not totally flat. Okay, I feel like the face I drew was a little bit longer and more like a male character, so I'm showing a longer nose here. And then the eye line is very important when you're doing this, because you don't want to have like one eye here and then one eye up here. So it's important to remember that the eyes should be aligned. Depends on the angle the face is turning at, but draw a line where the eyes should be. And then something that I noticed that people don't really pay attention to when drawing faces, as a beginner is, even though you drew an eye, let's just draw a like a closer eye so you can see what I'm talking about. And let's say this eye is a line. Like, sure, it's a line, but sometimes people forget that this is a simplified version of a more detailed eye that you're kind of more, you know, realistic detailed eye that you're kind of imagining is there. So if you did draw like this part of the eye, this should be a line too. And then if you forget about that, sometimes you could like have like this part be crooked and then your eye starts looking crooked because of one part of it, like that. Like, now this one's too high, this one's too low. I'm trying to explain this. I feel like I'm struggling. But yeah, so like just keep in mind that the eyes are a symmetrical part of the face, and you should try to keep it as aligned as possible, including like the eyelashes. Like, you don't want to have one eyelash going up and one eyelash going down, and then that starts looking crooked. Stuff like that. Sighing at my own failure of explanation. Hopefully that helped someone though. Okay, what else? I think there was, oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to say was to keep the same thing in mind for the eyebrows. So, you know what, let's bring back that. Let's bring that back. So like, if I was to draw the eyebrows, like, I don't want to have one eyebrow like that and then one eyebrow like this. That's gonna start looking crooked. Like, I want both eyebrows to be like more aligned and symmetrical. Is what I'm saying. But then, because of the angle, like, you know, some things could be different. It's not completely symmetrical. Remember that the face, it's symmetrical from the front profile, but remember that the face has its own little divots and stuff like that that could warp the shape. Anyway, quickly moving on. Thank you, Nikto, for the donation. Take her advice, guys. She's the best stick model drawer there is. Hell yeah. People pay good money for my stick models. Suspicious of you, brow. True, true. You could have different expressions with asymmetrical eyebrows and eyes. As long as it's intentional. Like, you could draw one eye like really small and one eye really big. If that was intentional. But yeah, for people who are like trying to go for more of a neutral, regular expression. Okay. What am I doing now? Let's clear this. Oh, I mean, while I'm at it, let's add to this. Remember that the ears are somewhere between the eyebrows and the nose. So this is where the nose is, that's where the eyebrows are. And then the hair, usually, especially in anime, it's gonna be like very voluminous. You're gonna have a lot of hair, especially if it's like spiky hair. Not just anime, cartoon too. Usually the hair does not like, it's not very attached to the top of the head. And I noticed that if you're using such a guideline like this one, you might like mess up and be like, oh, this is the top of the head, nothing can go above it, so I'm gonna draw the hair like down here. And then your character's head starts looking very small. So I would say don't be afraid to go outside your guidelines for the hair, because anime loves big poofy hair. Yeah, and then another tip I would give is keep in mind where the hairline is. The reason for this is even though your character has bangs that covers the eyes, parts of the forehead still shows. So never have more forehead show above the hairline is what I'm trying to say here with keeping the hairline in mind. So like, if you didn't have a hairline, you don't know where it is. So like, you could draw like, oh, too much forehead on this side, and then like not enough forehead, and then he looks like he's balding on the one side of his head. Could start getting bad, you know? Looks like Naruto. Does he? Every spiky-haired anime protag there is. But I think it's more common that people accidentally show too much forehead. Like, they forget that there should be a hairline, so they're like, let's like go up to the top of the head, since this is where the hair comes from, right? And then they accidentally like show like this much space where the forehead is, and I'm like, no, that's too much. Okay, let's get rid of this. Alright, I think about, 2 hours passed, so I think I'm about to start wrapping up. Let's see. You learned more in the past 5 minutes than you did in school. Well, that's really great to hear. I still don't think I'm the best teacher, which is probably why I didn't try to do a stream like this earlier. I mean, I give art advice once in a while in my streams, but I don't, from my experience of trying to edit my streams in the past, I felt like I didn't give enough unique art advice to make like a whole video out of a stream about art advice. So yeah, I feel like this is the most advice I've ever tried to give in a single stream. Thank you, V-Day, for being here and asking a question. You wish in school you could learn what you know you'll use in the future? Do you mean like in general for every school I'm having trouble pronouncing that word, school subject there is, or are you talking specifically about art class? Because I would say that the art class I've experienced do teach things that are useful to my art career in the future, even though it's like drawing, oh, you gotta draw this apple, you have to draw this boots, and I don't care about apples and boots, but to be honest, drawing things like that helps you figure out how to draw everything else. There's always gonna be a start of things that you don't like that, you know, the Karate Kid with the chores that he had to do in the beginning. Senna, welcome to my channel! Assuming you mean that you found it recently. If you can, do you have anything on character design, motives, color palette, and all that? Well, I made a discovery recently while making a commission, or two commissions, that I don't like doing character design. So when you're doing character design, a really important thing is that it makes sense, that the outfit works. Like, it's not so made up that you can't even imagine what it looks like from the back angle and the side angle. And I don't really enjoy drawing that because it's like drawing a blueprint of something that has rules and constrictions, and I can do it, but I think it's not that enjoyable. So I realized I didn't really like doing character design. I only like designing if I don't have to fully like work it out to be a functional design. I like making things up. So I don't know if I have good advice on character design. Other than what I just said, that it has to make sense from different angles. There's also something to keep in mind if you're a professional designer, which is designing something that could have functionality. So, for example, if you design a robot character and you draw like these huge tubes coming out of his back, you have to think, what are those tubes for? Like, how does the tubes contribute to this character other than to look cool? That's like something else you have to keep in mind when you're designing a character. Oh, check your message on Twitter. Okay, let's see. I think I only have one message on Twitter. I don't know if it's you. Let's see if I can handle this. Come on. I've been drawing for a little bit more than a year. I still struggle with perspective, specifically the human face. Okay. Thinking about it. Functionality is a big part. It's something you have to think about. It doesn't have to make sense in a real life setting. Like, it's still fantasy. You can still design fantasy. But it has to make sense for that character and the context the character exists in. Okay, this might be the last thing I do. Lagging for anyone? Was it? Hello, Saka. Okay. My ideal canvas size? A4, I think. Okay, so I'm gonna... Okay, let's see. So Jaro gave me their artwork and asked me to critique it. And they say they're struggling with perspective, especially on the human face. So I'm gonna give some advice on this artwork by Jaro. Jaro, are you in the chat? If you are, it would be great, because then I could ask you specific questions about what kind of advice you're looking for. I like that this is a black and white drawing, because then we don't have to think about colors and stuff like that. I think colors would be the hardest thing for me to help, because I would need the PSD file, so I don't have all the colors mashed together in one. It was a weird sudden lag. Okay, I guess it was for more than one person. Hopefully it's gone now. Hopefully the stream doesn't crash. Okay. So they wanted perspective help, especially on the face. So here... Okay, so I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna do the faux body. I'm gonna give a simple red line for the anatomy, where I feel like the anatomy should be. First of all, very lovely sketch. She's really pretty, and I think it's already a really great start, which is why I was staring at it, thinking like, do I have the capabilities to help this person who's already good? Okay, let's see. Oh, hey Jaro, you are here. Okay, so did you just want advice on the anatomy in general, or is there something really specific you wanted me to give advice on? Why did I stop streaming on Twitch? Twitch was okay, so Twitch, I tried to do like a whole little Twitch campaign where I was gonna like get Twitch partner, and I failed to get Twitch partner, and I was like, oh, I need a lot more time to do Twitch as, you know, a permanent long-term thing. And so I was gonna wait until like I had more time, and then it never happened. So I'm sorry. I think if I ever stream gaming or something random like that, I'll still do that on Twitch. Okay, so that's what Twitch was for. Yes, the stream will be archived. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the neck. Typically, when you look at this, the form of a human spine, the cervical spine, the area of the neck, is curved like this. And then the back is curved like this, right? And then the lumbar, this is a thoracic, the area that holds the ribs. The lumbar, the area that doesn't have any ribs, goes back like this. And then if we were to continue her body downwards, So if she had a butt, it would go back like this. This is where the pelvis is. Right? So let's get rid of that stuff that's not included in this drawing. So I'm gonna redline the neck here. I think it would look more natural if it was curved like the opposite of the way you curved it. Okay. So she is tilting her head forward, trying to capture that as well. What else? I would say for the arm, so let's bring this back into faux saturation or opacity. For the arm, I would say that this area here, it looks like you're trying to do a bicep, but it sort of looks like your arm starts to bend at this point, which looks a little bit confusing because, you know, it shouldn't bend. It kind of, for a moment, I thought it was the elbow, which it obviously isn't. So I would make sure to keep the arm straight. Advice for hair. Okay, yes, I can do that. Let's just redline the arm really quickly. So obviously the arm is separate from the position of the back. Does not have to be constrained by the line I drew for the back. Okay, so for hair, I would say... Okay, I'm just getting prepared with my layers. To remember the circle that the head is. So let's draw this bald version of her. This is where her bald head is. Usually it's a little bit more elongated in the back. Yada yada. Let's use a different color for the hair. And then, once again, I said this a few minutes ago, but demarcate where the hairline is. I think where you have it is okay. I might put it a little bit higher. I think a bigger forehead on her is nice for me. Bigger foreheads look softer, like baby-like. Babies have big foreheads. Okay, I would change the placement of her ear. I would put it here. Okay, does this make sense so far? And the reason why I'm changing the placement of the ear is because once I know where the jaw ends, this is why it's good to have to draw a base, even though this area is technically covered by the hair. You know where the jaw ends, and the ear is should be more centered on her head, and you can see this clearer without the hair. So without this, her hair has a lot of volume, so you might think that this is centered here, but without the hair, the ear should be a little bit more forward, right? Go to the hair now. Let's use blue. Okay, so it looks like you drew a middle part. So I'm gonna draw one too. Drawing skulls help. Yeah, drawing skulls will get you familiar with areas on the face that you typically wouldn't think of, because heads are usually covered with hair and cats and things that distract you from the basic shape. Okay, let's see what's happening here. So let me just start with the basic shape that you have going on with like that, right? It looks like her parting shows from this angle. Okay. So it looks like you have more volume on the forehead here, and it's not the forehead, the front of the skull. And I think that is okay, but I'm gonna have to work with this first. This is the base. So remember that the head is 3-dimensional and it curves. So it curves like this. It's a sphere. So I'm gonna draw this shape, which I called a beach ball in my tutorial video. So I'm just drawing this beach ball here. So you can kind of envision the faux sphere as a 3-dimensional object. And then when you draw the hair... Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how to make this easy to be seen. You want to remember that there are lines. I think she has some bangs like this. Like some lines in the middle are more curved because the sphere is starting to, like, you know, turn, and some lines are less curved. And this is most important for the area that is directly, the hair that is directly over her skull. The one that gets down here, then it matters less because that is not conforming to the shape of her skull or anything like that. Okay. Okay, let me look at this person's drawing. Okay, so is there a character you're drawing here, by the way? Is this a specific character or fan art? Just asking to see if I can see references of the character. Hello, Calvin. Welcome to the stream. Okay, seems like what we want to do here is add more volume to this side of the head, and that's okay. I'm gonna erase this area because I didn't add volume, and I think this is good, but just don't forget that the head has a shape underneath it. Underneath it. So even though there's volume, it should still be balanced. Okay. Yes, it's fan art. It's Alchemist from Girls Frontline. Alright, I'm gonna search her up. Alchemist Girls Frontline. Okay, so it looks like... Okay, hold on. It looks like she kind of just has really long hair. She doesn't really have any bangs. Let me put a picture of it on the screen. So this is the character that they were trying to draw. Very blurry small picture. But anyway. At least I have a better idea of what her hair looks like. It's just very long. Okay, so I think volume always looks good, even if in real life you might not have volume on such long hair because it's really heavy and hangs on your head. But in anime, the hair sometimes defies gravity. So I'm gonna follow along what this person drew. So let's go with, let me just draw exactly where they drew so it's not too different. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind when you're drawing the hair is the gravity. So if you do want to follow rules of gravity, there is, and not be Jessie from Team Rocket, then you'll have to make it look like there is some like center of gravity that the hair is being like pulled down towards in one way or another. This character looks like they have their hair blowing in the wind, so I'm gonna add like this shape here, which is, if you look at it by itself, this is the side of the hair that is on our side, the viewer's side. We can see this. It does not include any hair that is hanging out back there. So typically when I'm drawing long hair blowing in the wind, I would go with this shape where it gets thin and then gets thick. So this is kind of like the start of that shape. It's starting to get thin. Right? Are you trying to draw their hair blowing in the wind? Just wondering. Because if you're not, then ignore everything I just said. Like ribbons. Yeah, drawing, like figuring out how ribbons look like blowing in the wind, or like one ribbon, it's gonna help you out figuring out how hair would look blowing in the wind, because that's kind of like a ribbon shredded up into a bunch of thin threads. Okay, yeah, you are trying to draw the hair blowing in the wind. Good to know. Okay. I'm like thinking here what to do with the hair. So this line here continues on the other side. Let's say it does this. So right now, my imagery of her hair is like this. This is her head, this is her hair. I'm planning on drawing it like, oh, Jesus. Kind of like this. I don't know if you can see. Oh, okay. What? Okay. So this is her face. And this is the hair. I'm just telling you that if she had a full body, I'm imagining the hairs would make this shape. Get it? Right, so that's the shape I'm going for, which is why I went with this line here. I think it makes her hair look more flowy and have more direction. So when you're drawing here, my advice is to draw like a big block shape first. So like what I did right there. Draw it like a ribbon. Make it a blanket on her head. Don't draw the individual strands yet. And after you do this, you can go in and like, oh, let me add some more strands here. Let me do that. Stuff like that, right? You don't have to start with the strands. Yeah, so I think that's my advice on the hair. I do want to emphasize the change in the placement of the ear. And I would emphasize the change of the shape of the neck that I pointed out earlier. And then you were specifically asking about the face. Which, here, I think you have a pretty good face, but there is one thing that I would definitely like to point out, which is, I think the chin could be a little more forward. And the reason is because a general face, when you draw like a line from the nose to the chin, that line should, like the lips should end where that line is. And where you had your chin previously, I think the lips go a little bit, you know, they're not like a little bit protruding in relative to the chin and the nose. Yeah, trying to explain this the best I can, but anyway, I would bring the chin forward a little bit and let's see. I think I would bring the forehead in a little bit, like here. Give the head more of a round shape. And then another really basic thing I would say to like add a little bit more detail that also helps with the shape and form of the face is I would probably add a line that helps you see where this eye ends. So let's say the eye is shaped like this. I would add this line, kind of like an eyelash line. Not really. Yeah, those are just some basic tips. I could go longer, but you know, it could get a little bit complicated, and then some things are gonna start turning into like just my personal preference versus advice that should be more generic. But yeah, let me do some like merging here and there so you can see this better. Okay, so this is the original image, and these are my red and blue lines, which is like mostly focused on the face here. I did like give a little bit tips about the... Okay, wait, hold on. I didn't want to make this be more apparent, less confusing here. Okay, yeah, that's where I want the neck to be. And let's say that this is covered up. Okay. Original red lines. Okay. So hopefully that helped you, Jaro, and hopefully that demonstration helped other people. Versus, I think you want to help more people, you're gonna need a whole nother stream for that. Yeah, this is kind of like a singular stream topic, but I'm glad I got to do one. I think you're the only one that sent me a DM, I think. So thank you, Jaro, for that. And I hope that helped. Alright, I think that should be the end of my stream for today. We went over... Oh, we went 2 hours and 30 minutes. I would say that's a plenty long stream for me. Yeah, I told you guys to send them in like in the middle and at the beginning of the stream, but I'm ending the stream now, so maybe if I do another stream with a remote topic. Yeah, thank you guys for coming. I hope you learned. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope I won't be too long before my next stream. And announce what? Oh, when the next stream is? Yeah, my next stream is sometime in the future. So yeah, watch out for that. I feel like there's something I was gonna say. Okay, right, I wanted to talk about my Patreon, which is Patreon, the sponsor for the stream. I just wanted to quickly say that for this month, the reward is most likely going to be my VTuber drawing of Lena. I finished that, but I'm still doing some final edits for the client here and there. But I definitely have the videos and files ready for my Patreon content. And that's the first full body VTuber model I made, so I'm looking forward to sharing that. And that should be all. Thank you guys. Thank you for all the members and donations. Bye bye. No, I did not forget anything. Bye, Rur.